with the revival of Satan, and with the presence of a traitor within the apostles of the Church of Graham certainly have their hands full. This includes Regina, the commander of these apostles, who debut as a 5-star water blade unit, and also the 3rd blade unit released within 2 weeks. Of course, as a commander, she shares a sigil with the angel Sandalphon, the leader of the angels. As for Regina herself, she has an interesting kit. Other than the sigil system shared by the apostles, her kit consists of multiple protocols, and the ability to inflict various types of damage over time afflictions, especially afflictions outside the water element. Let's check out how her relatively complex and interesting kit works. Regina's first skill, Tactical Skewer, costs 2640 SP. It deals 2400% damage to surrounding enemies, and grants effects depending on what protocol Regina currently has. She has 3 protocols: Preservation, Restoration, and Purification. These protocols stem from her sigil ability, which we'll go through later. Preservation protocol provides a defense amp, with a maximum team amp level of 1. Restoration protocol restores Regina's HP with 50% potency. Purification protocol cleanses all afflictions from Regina herself. In terms of damage dealing, the damage to cost ratio is very good. But the highlight is the effects granted, based on the protocols she has present. As the player is able to select what protocol she can be using, these effects can be controlled by the player, and can be used to adapt to any situation in the battle. Overall, this skill fits Regina well, being quite tactical in nature. Her second skill, Imperial Castling, costs 5280 SP. It deals 2100% damage to surrounding enemies, inflicts frostbite, and 2 out of all of the 7 other elemental damage over time afflictions. It is by far the only skill that is able to inflict more than 2 damage over time afflictions. The damage from these afflictions are slightly weaker than those found on other units. This skill allows Regina to inflict up to 3 forms of damage over time afflictions, providing offensive affliction support to the team. The relatively low cost of this skill further solidifies this skill's capability as an offensive affliction support. Overall, this skill is very impressive on paper, and it certainly doesn't disappoint when in practice, though I wasn't able to test it out myself as I don't have her yet. Regina's set of co-abilities are quite unremarkable, having the typical 10% strength increase and the 6% flame resistance increase. Regina is resistant to stun, which in my opinion, is preferred over burn resist, as Regina can still dodge attacks, even though she'll be susceptible to burning. For her sigil ability, Regina has Sandalphon's Covenant. Typical of Covenants, she has the locked sigil debuff for the first 5 minutes. For this duration, Regina will have Preservation protocol as default. When holding down her Force Strike, she'll change her protocol every 1.5 seconds, cycling through Preservation, Restoration, and Purification protocols. To deduct time from her locked sigil debuff, she can use her first skill, which deducts 9 seconds. When she removes an affliction from an ally, she deducts 30 seconds instead. However, the Purification protocol only applies to herself, so maybe the deduction applies to when she cleanses herself, or else, this part of her ability becomes absolutely useless. When the locked sigil debuff wears off, she gets the sigil released effect. This effect grants Regina all 3 protocols simultaneously. This form of the Covenant is very good, granting Regina the ability to switch protocols according to the player. The only thing that isn't great about this ability is the explanation on the time deduction of the locked sigil effect. Her last ability, Afflicted Punisher, is an advanced version of Affliction Punisher. She gains 25% increased damage against afflicted enemies. If the enemy is afflicted by 2 or more afflictions, she gets additional 15% Punisher effect for every affliction, which can stack up to 4 times. This can significantly increase Regina's damage output, especially if the enemy is afflicted by 4 afflictions, though Regina herself can only inflict up to 3 afflictions at a time, so she'll need someone else to inflict 1 more affliction to get the maximum effect. So Regina is unique in the fact that she can inflict multiple afflictions, and being the first unit that can inflict up to 3 different afflictions at a time. The damage mods on her skills are also good, plus the relatively low SP cost of both of her skills, making her a good unit for a main DPS/affliction support hybrid. For me, if I would have her in my team, I want to make use of her affliction support, as well as her high damage mods. So, having a standard defense build with more skill haste should be good for Regina. Striking haste is also a good option for skill haste, as Regina has to use her force strike to change protocols. For her dragon of choice, any offense-based dragon will do for her. As of now, we don't have Sandalphon as a playable dragon yet, so the next best choice would be Reborn Poseidon. The twin rabbits are also a good choice, as they allow for more skill spamming. For her team composition, anyone that can reduce affliction resistance will be great. Sure, she can use shared skills that have that ability, but having teammates that can do the same thing is highly welcomed. But, for water units, there isn't any unit that can do just that. Also, water units generally inflict frostbite, and not any other elemental damage over time afflictions. So, if using Regina as a main control, having shared skills that reduce affliction resistance will do. For her Wimprint setup, I would focus on DPS and increased skill haste. This allows her to dish out good damage, while also supporting her team with her multiple damage over time afflictions. Regina is surely a nice addition to the game, being the first unit that can inflict more than 2 afflictions, as well as having good damage modifiers. The protocols that she have allow Regina to adapt to any situation when using her first skill, and during Sigil released, she gets all 3 protocols, and the effects that they bring when using the first skill, making her an incredible self-sufficient unit that also provides team-wide defense boost. Her weakness would be her afflictions, as enemies gain resistance towards afflictions over time, and also boss enemies are resistant to multiple afflictions, especially the demons from Dominion stages. Though this weakness will make this part of her kit useless at long battles, her first skill and sigil is more than enough to have her remain useful as a self-sustaining main DPS unit. Overall, Regina is an impressive unit with 2 distinct roles, and certainly lives up to her position as the commander of the apostles. Now go out there and lead the apostles in the fight against Satan, while anticipating the arrival of Yuden's team from the World Tree in the next part of the event. That's all from me. Moga out.